Hey there folks, it's Matthew Seville here with SLRLounge.com, and I have another episode of Weekly Edit. Today we are going to talk about a workflow process that I've been slowly kind of cultivating over the past few years, and that is, as you'll notice, if I go out of the lightbox here thingy in Lightroom, you'll notice that this is a JPEG image, and this is actually the JPEG image that came straight out of the camera. Of course, I did shoot this landscape in RAW, but what I did was I used Nikon View NX2 to export that RAW file directly to a JPEG, just as it was in camera. And the reason that there's these beautiful saturated colors and everything is because I used the vivid picture control, or if you're a Canon shooter, it's called picture style. But I used a vivid picture control, and I turned the contrast and saturation up a little bit to give me this vibrant, amazing pop in the image. Now, it may look a little bit over the top for some, and that's fine, but I feel like because it's the in-camera colors, it has this natural look to it, almost as if I were shooting slide film, you know, the type of slide film that has lots of saturation in it. Anyways, this is what it looked like on the back of the camera. Now, here's what it looks like in Lightroom when I bring it in, and if I hit D for develop module, you can see this has got no editing applied, and this JPEG image also has no editing applied. So in my creative pursuit, the question is, how do I get this raw, unedited image to look like this, how I had it on the back of the camera? This was, in my opinion, my creative vision for the scene, and that's why I used all the camera settings to make it look like this. I want my final image to look approximately like this. So we're here in Adobe Lightroom 5, and I'm going to try and attempt to make this raw image look something like this. Now, for some reason, Adobe does have a lot of trouble with warm, saturated tones, such as these very bright oranges and reds. And I've got a little bit of a demonstration here. I've got some virtual copies, and for example, if I go into my SLR Lounge Preset System and just hit the base vivid presets, say for light crush or for medium HDR, one of these ought to do the trick. I like the light crush here. Now let's go to the in-camera colors and just look and compare them. For some reason, my sunset colors have turned jaundice or something. It's just really gross looking compared to the beautiful reddish orange tones that I had in the back of the camera, and that just won't do. So this is where I start to customize my workflow in general. So this is where I start to customize my workflow to kind of suit my needs to get these exact tones to look right. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Adobe's profiles to change my profile from standard to camera vivid, because this will give me a much more accurate representation of the in-camera colors. Adobe has worked very hard to create these color profiles to try and match what the in-camera colors would look like if you had used this same profile. Now, if you're on a Canon camera, these are going to look different in Adobe, even by default, because Adobe has different camera profiles based on the camera or the type of image, you know, RAW, NEF versus CR2, which is Canon's RAW format. So that's all I'm saying. If these look different, don't panic. You're going to have the options for profiles that correspond with the type of camera or RAW file that you're editing. So let's keep going. It looks like it's getting closer, but there's still a little bit of a difference in these yellowish tones here. So the next thing I do after I adjust the camera calibration profile is I'm going to need to do some HSL adjustments, and that is hue, saturation, luminance. This panel allows me to tweak individual colors very, very specifically. And for example, in this situation, I want to adjust my yellow and warm colors to be a little bit less yucky. I guess I'll just use that technical term. I want it to be less yucky. I want it to match this look just a little bit more. It seems like I'm kind of in the greenish yellowish direction. So I'm going to take my yellow and orange and I'm going to bump it away from green, so to speak. Maybe I'll give the red one tap as well, just to be sure. And let's have a look here. This is actually looking very, very awesome. I'm actually liking the sky even more now than I liked the in-camera colors. However, this is starting to look a little bit over the top with regards to the highlight saturation here. Now, if I look at my histogram, it says that I've got plenty of room before my red channel blows out. However, if I hit S to turn on Proof Preview, and I check these options for the destination gamut warning, which I want to set to sRGB, it's going to tell me, hey, Lightroom may think that you've got all sorts of highlight detail here, but that's because Lightroom is by default using the Pro Photo RGB color space, or at least that's the best representation. If I hit S again to go back, you can see the histogram change. This is actually going to be very, very much blown out. So I definitely need to recover this just a little bit, and I'm going to do that by going back up here and undoing these vivid base presets. I'm going to shift click that down. Let's go all the way to 0 actually and see how that looks. This level of saturation, let's compare it really quick. Maybe I could go back up just a little bit on the vibrance. This level of vibrance and saturation, because I used the camera vivid profile, is actually better suited for this image. I don't need the extra saturation and vibrance that the base vivid preset does here from the SLR Lounge Preset System. And that's pretty much it. That's ready to go. Now, I did have one final image here. This is just another virtual copy. And this, to be honest, you can compare what I just edited in a minute or so, or a couple minutes, with this image and this other image here. These two green images, I spent literally like an hour or more trying to slowly finesse the colors to get it to look like this in-camera JPEG image. Now, I think I did a pretty good job with just this 2-minute edit here, so I'm going to call it a day with that, but I just wanted to encourage you all overall, especially if you're a fine art type landscape photographer and you like to spend a lot of time editing your images, consider using your JPEG. You know, you could shoot RAW plus JPEG if you don't want to fiddle with extra programs like Nikon View NX or Canon's program or Photo Mechanic. You could just shoot RAW plus JPEG and use the JPEG image as a reference point for pursuing your creative artistic vision in the final production. I find that it's a huge help, and I hope that it could help you guys too. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.